page 7. Okay. Periodic functions are symmetrical. This is very helpful. Don't forget that. I told you that in quadratics unit, and it's coming back here. Okay, so this is on page 7. Where you start determines where you go. The start determines where you go next. I should say that, where you go next. Okay, where you start will determine where you go next. So what do I mean by that? Page 7. What do I mean by that? If you start at the max, the only logical way would be to go down, correct? Like we're already in the highest. But I want you to think of it this way. You are going to return back to the max, correct? So I want you to picture, I want you to know that you're coming back to it for sure. And that'll be determined by the period, right? How far that will be or how close, right? But I want you to start with that. And then I want you to think of halfway. What's the halfway point? It's right about there, correct? That's when you're going to be at the lowest point. And then there's a halfway point between this and this, right? And that's when you're going to land on the middle. And there's also a halfway between the lowest point and the highest. That is the middle again. And you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, right? That's where we get the 5 points from. That's what the calculator needs for it. And if you have a different color, I want this to stick out, okay? I'm going to use a red pen. And I want you to section, so if you're into music, you're going to appreciate this. So I'm going to section off the points I just made. They're equally spaced out. If you don't have a ruler, that's all right. Doesn't that look like a music sheet? Of course, it's not exactly, but it is, right? It kind of looks like it. And this here, the distance from here to here would be a full period. I need you to understand this because word problems, graphing, everything is going to revolve around 5 points. And we're going to focus in on the max, mid, and min. So equally spaced out here, equally spaced out here. Okay? So four equally spaced out x intervals. Okay? 4 equally spaced out x intervals. So if you now want just a light curve, you can do one of those. Sure, go for it. And then you, if you start in the low point, you're gonna obviously you need to go up to the top and then back down. So I want you to focus on, okay, I know that I'm gonna come back to where I started, and that's gonna be determined by the period. So this could be closer together, further apart. The highest point in this case will be right in the middle between these two. So you kind of just estimate where that's gonna be, and you just put that up there. Okay, and then you kind of find the halfway between those two, make them be equally spaced out in terms of the x, right? Same here. So you go from mid, mid, max, mid, back to min. Okay, so same thing is going to happen here. I'm just going to use estimation skills. So same thing here. I need you to understand that. And still the period is from min to min. Same thing, we can go arrow there as well, and here, right? Like both of them are equally spaced out. How many spaces are there? 4. Keep that in mind. 4 X intervals. I want you to highlight that or underline, because that is going to be key later on. You're going to see that in just a little bit. That 4 is going to come back. Okay? And if you want to, you can do this. So I don't know if you've probably talked about this. I don't know, physics probably, but you know how your radio has different frequencies. Every station is broadcasting at a different frequency. So some radio stations, if it's like 103.1, right, it's a certain frequency. So your radio in your car has to match that frequency. So when you're turning your dial or whatever, because if you're on your radio in the car, if it's not matching it, you're not going to hear anything. So you're basically shifting the sine wave in your car to match the wave transmitted by the radio station. And when they jive, that's when you can actually listen to the songs, right? So it's sine waves are everywhere. Electricity in your outlet, it's also alternating current. It follows a sine wave, right? So if you want to become an electrician, you're going to learn this in depth. Right? I can't remember anymore. I remember going across the room, but I thought there were some electricians in this room. So steps. These are there's several ways to do this. So graphing, no context. Make sure this is no context right now. Several ways to do this, but below are the steps that work every time. Normally, you should include a full cycle period, but some questions will ask you to graph 2 cycles, and I will do that quite often, but we're going to focus on one for now, or at first. Step number 1, study sheet. This is study sheet, but try to make this very small. X scale, determine the period, then divide it by, there's that number again. It comes from what we just looked at here. So this is how you find the period. Then to determine what the X scale will be, we take period and we divide it by 4. So on my study sheet, I will maybe just have X scale, have this formula, and then this right next to it. We also have to determine our Y scale. Okay, determine the Y max, the midline, and the Y min, right? Max, mid, min. I think I made a little change here. Can you add this? Sketch. Sketch these 3 lines on your graph, okay? So I'm just having a moment here. What this will do is it will split your wave, that one period you're trying to graph, into 4 sections. That's what that's going to do. And what this does is it finds the max, the mid, and the min. So you're going to go ka-ching, they're going to combine, right? On the graph, those 2 are going to combine. So this is determining your X scale, then you determine your Y scale. And number 3, very important, determine the coordinate of a max or a min. First positive X value is preferred. And I will walk you through it, but your wave will be graphed on your screen. You go find the actual coordinates of one of the maxes or the mins, okay? 4, plot first point, then jump to mid and add the X scale to the X value. Continue this until you get back to the max. I will walk you through it. Right now, this probably doesn't mean anything to you, but let's put it to the test, okay? So this is how I graph every time, and it works for me. All right, so here we go. Go to the page 8 here. Type this into your calculator, please. Can I just warn you? I forgot the warning. It happened to me. It will happen to you if you're not careful. Watch for double brackets. You should not see that. You see the double bracket there? You should not see that on your calculator. So some students press sign, because as soon as you press sign, I don't know if it happened to you already, it will already start with a bracket. So some students put another bracket because it's in brackets, right? And so that is a completely different graph, completely different. So got to watch out for that. Anyways, the warning is there. Let's type this into our, maybe this happened to you already when you did the homework. I don't know. 25, type this in, okay? 25 sine of 0.0628 x minus 12 minus 20. So I picked that difficult one, right? I didn't pick an easy one. This is not going to be nice, pretty round numbers, okay? But I typed that in, and you can graph it if you want, but I'm going to hold off a little bit. I'm going to hold off because based on what I calculate here, it's going to help me set my window. So how about we try to graphing it? Just try it. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, see, I see like it doesn't look very sine wave to me. So just hold on a little bit. So we're going to calculate things. We're going to figure out the x scale. First, we find the period, which is 2 pi divided by 0.0628. Actually, I'm going to ask you to make a change here to make it easier to graph, okay? Can you change, listen carefully, can you change the negative 20 to negative 15? Can you please do that? It just will make it a bit cleaner. Change that to negative 15. And then we're good to go. Yeah, now we're good to go. So we asked us to graph this for 2 complete cycles. So let's find our period here. You just grab your calculator, and as I said, 2 pi divided by 0.0628, and that's 100, 100.05. 0507. Okay. Then to find the x scale, you're going to take that number and you divide it by, what's that magic number? 4, right? So I take this on my calculator and just go divide it by 4. So that's 25.0127. I can tell you this, most of the time this is going to be a nice round number, but today it isn't, and I want to do that. I want to keep it that way. Okay, so this is how much, this is my x scale. This is how much my x is going to go up every single time. Y scale, you're going to find the max. How do we find the max? We take the negative 15, which is D, and we add 25 to it. And what do we get there? We get 10. The mid is just negative 15. And the min is D minus A, right? So remember, always starting with the D minus A, which is 25. And so that's negative 40. So you just found that this is your max. That's the highest, the middle, and the lowest, okay? So now I graph it on my calculator. Watch. I'm going to go to my window. What's my period? It's 100, right? So I use that to guide my X max. I'm not going to go 100. I'm going to go 120 or something like that. Because it's within 100 or more where you're going to see a full cycle. My Y min is going to be negative, it's negative 40, right? I'm going to go negative 45. and my y max is 10. So I'm going to go maybe 12, just go a little bit above it. So these two help you figure out your y min and max, and this is your going to help you figure out your x max. So hit graph now. Not too bad, right? Like you actually see a full, from here to here, that's a full cycle. And so let's say you want to see more. All you need to do is double or triple your x max. And then you're going to see right now there's one cycle there and another cycle. So this is actually two cycles now. So the period helps you determine your x max. Okay. So you're like, Mr. Jackson, what about the negatives? Don't you care about the negatives? Yeah, you could, but I tend to focus on the positives. So find the first positive or the first max or the first min. I'm going to figure out the first max. So you go second trace, max. I have to go all the way over. So you have to go to the left of it, enter, over to the right, enter, enter. And there it is. It's basically 16. Basically. So I'm going to use second, trace, max, and I'm going to go 15.994. And the maximum is 5, which we expected. This is what you start with. Okay, you start, that's the first max I see. Now, we are almost ready to graph because the first step involves what we already have. So ready? Go to your graph. This is your x and this is your y. You're gonna grab a ruler and you're gonna figure out your max. Your max is at 10. So if this is 5, I need to make sure my scale works. My min is negative 40, so actually I have to use a scale of 10. Negative 20, negative 30, negative 40, right? I wanted to go up by 5s, but then it wouldn't have worked for my y min. So this is 10, 20, and so forth. So just a dashed line. This is my max right here. X is equal to 10. Just a nice light dashed line. Your mid is at negative 15, right? So negative 15 is right about there, between negative 10 and negative 20. And your min is at negative 40 exactly. I will try to give you a grid, but you should also be able to do this by hand. So you're gonna focus on these 3 lines, which is what I call the Y scale. Okay? How much do you think I should go up by if I want to do 2 cycles? I should probably go up by 25. Okay, so I'm going to go 25, 50. Good luck, Dion. 75, 100. 125, 150. 175, 200. Okay. This might backfire a little bit, but that's a pretty good scale, I would say. So you come up with your scale in the X, you come up with a scale in the Y. And the first point you're going to have to put down is it's basically 16.5. So this is 25 here. Sorry, 25 is there. Half of it would be 12.5. Right, so 16 would be somewhere here. So I go all the way to the, sorry. Did I make a mistake? Guys, I made a mistake. In my calculator, I did not go minus 15 here. Remember? I don't know if you changed it, but I told you to change that to negative 15. So I have to change it. So my max, I think, is still going to be the same. My bad. My max is still the same. X value is just 10. So can we change that here? It's supposed to be 10. So it's basically 1610, right? So this would be right, because if I think about it, so this is 25, 12 and a half, 16 is right about there. So just put a point there, on the max. And label that 15.994, 10. Make sure you label that first one. Grab your calculator. You can type in 15.994, right? And you're going to add our x scale to it. What's our x scale? Look at your paper way up there. 25.0127, right? 25.0127. And what do we get? 41, right? Approximately. So you're going to jump to the midline and put the 40 down, okay? This is 25. So 40 is right about there. Then you're going to add the scale again, 25.0127. I just keep my calculator going. The next point is at 66.019. So 66 basically. This would be 75. 66 is right about there. So you jump down to here. 66 is right about there. Okay, so you jump from max, mid, min, and then you add another scale to it, 25.0127, which gets you to 91.03. That's right about there. So I always jump from max, mid, min, back to mid, and then you add another scale. That's 116. It's right about there. 116 is right about there. Okay. So now you have one cycle. So if you wanted to connect those, you could. It's asking you to do 2 cycles. So all you do is you keep going, right? So 116, you add the scale, 25.0127. So that's 141, which would be right about there. You keep adding. That's 166, which would be right about there. Keep adding, which is 191, which is right about there. One more time. That's 216. So actually I'm a little bit off on the chart. Okay. And so you should be seeing that it's symmetrical and then it keeps repeating indefinitely. Okay. That's all you need to do there. You don't need to, except for the equation itself. Y is equal to, come on, giving up on me. Y is equal to 25 sine of 0.0628 x minus 12 minus 15. And you know what the painful part about this was? That the x scale is such a weird decimal, right? It's not like a nice round 25. I can promise you that 90% of the time it will be, a nice round number, but not always, so you have to be comfortable with it. I will put an arrow all the way from the top telling me that that's what I started with and that I went, right, to go from here to here. I'm just going to go up on my screen to recall that this one here is 41.007 negative 15, right? So I'm just gonna have this one point here labeled, and what I did is I went from here to here and I added plus x scale. Okay, maybe I'll label one more. This one here was 66.02 negative 40, this point right here. So what I did from here to here is I kept on adding the x scale. But what you don't need to wonder is, where's my y value? You only jump from max to mid to min. You don't worry about anything in between. So that's the symmetry of the sine wave, right? Once you figure out, you're basically taking the period, splitting it into 4 equally spaced sections, and so you keep on adding that 1/4 of a period to every point. Okay, and you figure out your graph that way. What are we at? 11:24. When are you leaving, Jabari? Now? Or what time? 15 minutes before, so 11:30. So is this a little bit of a scratcher? Yes, it is a little bit. Yeah. From the equation. So that's a good question. So I'm going to write that down. To get the max, I went d plus a. To get the mid, right? That's just the d value, right? D value from the equation. And to get the min, I went d minus a. That's how I did that. That makes sense? You want me to give you another? We have some time. Another thing that I've done in the past is this. Second option. If you don't want to go straight to the graph, you find the 15.994, 10, and you know how many points you need for one cycle. 5, right? You know you're going to go from 10 to negative 15 to negative 40, back to negative 15, back to 10, right? That's what's going to happen for sure. And some students just like to do the plus 20, yikes, plus 25.0127, just right here, plus x scale, plus x scale. So just do it here and then go plot it on the actual map, on the graph. So I can give you these points real quick because I have them on my history here. What I'm going to ask you to do though is, on your calculator, use all the decimals, okay? This is one cycle. This is the max, mid, min, mid, max, okay? So you cycled like that, and then you can go ahead and plot it on the graph, right? So you first do the work here and then figure that out, okay? What else can I warn you about? Oh, let's check if this is actually true. If you graph, we are supposed to get that max and get approximately what this is. So second trace 4, I'm going to go all the way over to that second positive max. Enter, 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 and you get, watch this, 116.0410, which is exactly what we have here. Right, so we went full cycle there. So you can do it this way and then transfer it over, or you can do it right on the graph, right? You have your calculator to help you with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, chances are that if you start here, you will actually try it and finish it at home. So I'm going to ask you to try, so we're going to skip pages 9 and 10 because I already assigned pages 11 to 16. But I will narrow it down for you because that's a whole lot. That's a, right? Pages, that's a lot. I don't expect you to graph them all. You would be a champ by the time you're done, all of them. But I know time is limited for you guys, and you have a life other than math, right? Sometimes I forget that. Teachers forget that. I don't. Okay, so I'm going to say if you could do 11, I will say this. Must do. I would say page 11A plus. Let me just go find the other one because there's different levels of difficulty. I would say page 14 and page 15. Those three. Those are only 3 graphs. Right? 3 graphs. If you can do those by Monday, I will have the key up online. Okay. Maybe I'll do one of them. I'll do a video of. If you're interested, you're bored, right? You go and visit my channel.